Hi guys, welcome to the gym induction video for the gym here. We're going to take you through how to use the equipment safely and effectively. There's a gym etiquette poster on the wall which formalises various things you need to consider whilst you're in here. The main one being considerate to other users. Two key points from the poster are the wiping down of equipment after you finish using it, so you leave it in a nice condition, and also not leaving anything lying around on the floor that other gym users might trip over. Generally try and leave the gym in the sort of condition you would hope to find it in when you arrive. Okay, so we're now going to take you through the various pieces of equipment and how to use them. Okay, so standard exercise bike. First thing you need to adjust is the saddle height. So it should be at a height whereby when the pedal is at the very bottom, you have a slight angle in the leg. So that's a little bit too low for me. There's a lever on the front and you slide up the saddle. And that is perfect, so slight angle at the knee. To light up the display, you need to start pedaling initially, and there it goes beeping. So you begin to pedal, and then simply push quick start, and away you go. The time starts up from 0. There's just one kind of thing to adjust on here if you're just using the quick start method, which we will be for this induction. Increase the level. And you push the arrow that faces up, and that increases the level and the resistance on the front wheel. And obviously the arrow pointing down lowers the resistance and makes it much easier to pedal. Two handholds, a more upright position like this, or a more kind of spin cycly position like this. Both of these handholds have heart rate pads, sort of shiny silver pads. And if you hold those for sort of 30 seconds or so, your heart rate will be read by the machine and show on the display in front of you. Okay, so the Recumbent exercise bike, slightly different from the normal bike in that you get a backrest. So if you do have a bad back, this one's a bit of a more comfortable position for you. Key thing to adjust, as ever with bikes, is the seat position. So you jump on to test the distance and fully extend the pedals, so the pedal's as far away from you as possible, and you should only have a slight bend in the knee. So I'm way too close to the pedals at the moment. There's a little handle under the seat that you lift up, and then slide back on the slider, which moves nice and easily. And then when I fully extend the pedals away from myself, there's a nice slight angle at the knee, which is the correct position. So to light up the display in front of you, begin pedaling, and it all lights up automatically, and then push quick start. The other thing that you adjust on here is the resistance on the front wheel, and you do so with the level button. So if you push the up arrow, it increases the resistance and makes it more difficult to pedal, or the down arrow obviously makes it a lot easier to pedal. One hand position on this one, which are the two handles next to the seat, and you sit there in a nice flat back and upright position holding the handles, and in doing so it will automatically read your heart rate up on the display in front of you, and then you just continue cycling. Okay, so cross trainer, it's kind of a skiing motion, and you step onto it initially. And make sure when you are on here, you're in a nice upright position, so you're not hunched over or anything like that. To light up the display, you have to start moving your feet and you kind of slide them. And then the display will light up and you push quick start. And that starts you counting up from 0, so that will give you your time. Key thing to adjust on this is kind of the resistance actually on the back wheel. So you push the level button up, and that will increase the resistance on the rear wheel, and back down will decrease the resistance, and obviously that makes it harder and easier to skate. Two hand positions, one where you don't use your arms at all, and one where you pull and push with your arms, and that helps your feet a little bit. Both of these have silver kind of heart rate pads on them, and that will show your heart rate on the display in front of you, and then you just carry on. Okay, so treadmill, first thing you need to do once you've jumped on, clip the cutout clip to your clothing somewhere and make sure it's securely fastened. The idea of this is that were you to fly off the belt, it automatically stops the machine so you can't hurt yourself. So obviously once you're attached, push quick start. The machine will then just pause for a sec and then give you a little countdown from 3, and then very slowly the belt begins to move. Once you're underway, you can increase your speed with the up and down arrows. Obviously up speeds you up, and then the down arrow will slow you down. The other thing you can adjust on here is the incline of the whole machine, so you can walk uphill effectively, and your incline arrows are here as well. So obviously up increases the ramp at the front, so you're walking uphill, and then back down to slow you back down. Two different ways to stop. Obviously you've got the cutout clip or the manual push stop button. Were you to injure yourself and not be able to reach the stop button for whatever reason, sometimes it's quite difficult to do so if you've hurt yourself, grab the side rails and straddle the belt. And once you're safely off, it's much easier to then push the stop button and the whole thing will stop. Okay, so rowing machine, first thing you need to do is check the resistance and make sure it's on a nice low setting to begin with. Obviously you don't want to start up on a real high resistance before you're warmed up or anything. Next thing, fit your feet properly into the foot plates, and they should be in a position whereby the red strap goes across the end of your laces, where your laces finish sort of down towards your toes. We check that one, and that is not quite right, so I need to adjust the foot plate, and you pull that off and it slides, and then you clip it back in. Foot in, and now the red strap goes perfectly across the end of my laces. And you tension that up, and your feet should be nice and firmly fixed in, because you do need to flex against that strap to row. And then obviously do the same thing with the other one. Okay, so you're in, ready to row. Grip on the bar initially. You don't want it right down in your fist. It should be in kind of a claw grip towards the end of your fingers like that. The other thing to remember when rowing is to have a nice flat back. You don't want to be too curled over. So you grab the bar as so, in the end of your fingers perfectly, and then you drive with your legs, pull with your arms, back with your arms, back with your legs. So legs, arms, arms, legs. As you begin rowing, the display will light up automatically, and it starts counting you up from 0. So that will show obviously your time at the very top. And then the one key figure below that is the speed in which you might row 500 meters. So the lower that speed is, the faster you're rowing 500 meters. Okay, so cable machine, loads of different things you can do on here. It's kind of a multifunctional piece of kit. There is a poster on the wall which gives you some guidelines as to the type of things you might want to try out. Obviously make sure you do know the techniques thoroughly before attempting anything. First thing to do with this, make sure the weight stack's adjusted properly. Someone might have been on here lifting massively heavy weights, so you want to make sure that's zeroed before you start. And that has a nice easy pin that you move up and slot in. And obviously with this, because you've got two sides, if you are using both handles, you need to remember to adjust both weight stacks. So the second one is adjusted in the same way. So once you've got those even, you know you're not going to hurt yourself when you try your first exercise. The other thing to adjust are the sliders. So these are adjusted by pulling that, holding the housing, and then they slide up and down and click in. So obviously make sure that's clicked in. They are numbered, so it is easy to get them in the same place, which is very important obviously if you're doing some form of exercise where you need them level. So obviously do double check that they are the right height. The other thing you adjust on here are the fittings, and these are done via the fairly simple clip on there. And there's an array of different fittings that you can choose that correspond with whichever exercise you might have chosen as well. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. If you do have any further questions or require any information, please speak to your accommodation manager.